Hello everybody, Tracy Sizemore here, writer and publisher of the Han Cluster Sci-Fi RPG, and I'm here to answer your deep dive questions. Where are the aliens? So one of the questions that I get is, are there aliens in the Han Cluster? And the short answer is yes. Yes, there are. However, there's a very specific philosophy to the setting that sort of dictates how the aliens are presented. So I want to go over what they are, why they are, where you might already find them, and how to incorporate aliens into your game. Before we get started, I want to warn everybody that there are probably going to be some heavy spoilers in this one for anybody who's both interested in playing through the plot point campaign and anybody who wants to dive into sort of the secret hidden treasures of the Han Cluster and what is behind the curtain. So if you're not interested in that, and maybe you don't want to get spoiled by things because you want to play the plot point campaign at some point, just pay attention to the spoiler tag that I put below and ignore that part of the video. So before we start to answer this question, I need to go over some Han Cluster philosophy. Oh, boring, right? Well, there are some important things that are sort of essential to the setting. And the first philosophy number one, is that Han Cluster is predominantly a human story. The Transcendence plot point campaign emphasizes the fact that we are humans, we are working together, we are solving our problems together, and we are facing our demons together. To introduce aliens into that mix right away would have sort of diluted the whole point of the setting. So aliens, at least at the beginning of the setting, are somewhere else, somewhere beyond the next. The most important ones are the ones that are heavily detailed as the bad guys of the plot point campaign. So in a weird, twisted way, Transcendence is a first contact story, and it's not a particularly pretty one. If I were to introduce aliens as a friendly species or a species that's out there sort of helping humans without our knowledge, or even as playable PCs, I would have diluted the story that's important to me to tell. I wanted us to feel like we were on our own, like we had to solve this problem together alone. There was no help available. And that is an important aspect of the plot point campaign as it's presented. So philosophy number two. Spoilers. Han Cluster is what I call a dimensional multiverse. And what that means is there are many, many universes out there besides our own. And what I mean by universe is a universe that's had its own Big Bang, its own evolution, independently of ours. It's not a parallel universe like in the Marvel movies, where you have your version of yourself or your dark version like in Star Trek or whatever. It's independent, completely different universes, and they are connected via the Nexus. Aliens are rare in individual universes. Maybe you'd be lucky to get one or two sentient species developed in a single universe. That is not an uncommon belief among scientists now, that we didn't have time to develop multiple very advanced scientifically minded cultures in our universe, that we might be the only ones because we've only had so much time to develop, from, planetoids to coalescing stars to forming solar systems. Like, all that had to happen before sapient life could happen. And so there's a scientific belief out there, not uncontradicted by other scientists, of course, but one that I latched onto, that life is rare. So I thought, okay, there's only one or two species per universe in the Han Cluster, but there are many, possibly millions, possibly billions of different universes. And the secret is, the Nexus is the glue that connects all these universes together. This is all embedded into the plot point campaign as it is, and it's all set up for the future of what aliens could come into play as the Han Cluster develops. So given all this, what do aliens look like? Well, in the Han Cluster, they could look like anything. They could look like us. They could. They could be Star Trek aliens or Star Wars aliens if you wanted them to be. They could also look like amorphous blobs. They could look like crystal pillars. They could look like incorporeal ghosts. They could look like anything. And that's also sort of a prevailing philosophy among scientists, that aliens out there probably won't look like us at all. In fact, If we were staring at alien species right in the face, we might not even recognize it because they are so possibly varied that way. The possibilities are endless. And I sort of glom on to what Disney described as the plausible impossible in that sense. Give us some willing suspension of disbelief for what kind of aliens are out there and let your sort of imagination go wild. So they're all out there. They could be our friends, they could be our enemies, they could be neutral, they could have their own agendas, and they could all come through the necks in different ways. The Transcendence Plot Point Campaigns covers a big one for this. The upcoming Ghosts of Icarus Haven covers a different kind of alien incursion coming into the Han cluster. So what makes all this uniquely Han cluster? What is to stop you from taking, say, your Rifts game or your Last Parsec game or any universe from another setting and transplanting some of that mythos and some of those stories into Han cluster? You can do that. There's absolutely nothing stopping you from doing that. The Han cluster has a construct where you could plausibly be able to get away with that. The thing that makes it uniquely Han cluster is that the Nex is a connective tissue that binds all this together. That's sort of an important aspect of the fact that they can travel between their universe and ours, that we might be able to one day travel from our universe to theirs, etc. The other important thing is that the Nex serves as memory. It serves as memory for all the events and all the experiences of all the aliens and all the humans and every sentient living being in the dimensional multiverse. It remembers. It remembers it all. It's a huge database of memory. What that means and what that translates to, I haven't quite gone down the rabbit hole of exploring that yet. I wanted to introduce the concept and then expand on it later. It will be expanded on in a big way when I release the Earth book, the book on the solar system. I don't want to spoil anything, but that is all coming. So ultimately, aliens can look like us, they can not look like us. They can have representatives for themselves that are nothing to do with them, like in the Transcendence Plot Point Campaign. They can be our friends, our enemies, they can be neutral, they can have their own agendas, they can do whatever you want in the Han cluster. It's just handled in a slightly different way than most settings. So that gives you an intro to aliens in the Han cluster, how you can incorporate them, where they are, where to find them, etc. Come back next week and I'll answer another question.